Hey there, welcome to the episode for April 30th, 2025. I think that's the way I'll read the numbers. You can see the name, which will include the date as 2025043001, the first and in today's case, the only episode of Coffee Solo, a random, spontaneous, aperiodic audio program published exclusively on Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com. But then if you are finding this, you probably already know that. So I spoke in the previous episode of this very program about the fact that this week I was going to be attending two different presentations. One was going to be Tuesday, the Association of Women in Science. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. AWIS, the Nevada chapter, had a presentation by a speaker. It was going to be about the application of generative AI to scientific research. Sounds interesting. And then today, I was supposed to go to Ignite.Vegas. If you're not familiar with Ignite, it's 15 seconds. Pachacucha is 20 seconds. 15-second slide. 20 slides, 5 minutes. Can't go wrong. So you make your presentation, the slides advance automatically. It moves very quickly. I was going to go and see this mostly to see how their production was going to work out. I have not seen any evidence that they publish video of these when they do them. Anyone who's familiar with the Ignite Talks program, it's not a TV program. I mean, there's an entity that will license you for money. Hang on a second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I always have to turn off my air conditioner, otherwise it adds additional noise. So it may have seemed like a moment, but I had to wait until it cycled back off. So anyway, Ignite as an entity will license you the name, and you can have Ignite wherever. Ignite my city, Ignite my organization, Ignite, whatever. They charge like $100, but they retain full rights to the video or any other publication. So you sign up and agree to not publish video. So I'm going to assume that that's what's happening, I guess, but then I really don't see Ignite updating their publications in general. So I don't know what's going on there. So I was going to go check that out. So Tuesday night, Wednesday night. Now, Tuesday night, before I went, because I do take the bus. I sold my car, 7 years ago now? Best decision ever, and except for occasionally it's inconvenient. An occasionally inconvenient truth. But before I was going to go, because it was going to take about 2 hours to get down there, because public transit in Las Vegas is not good. So about 2 hours to get down there. It takes 20 minutes to get downtown and then another hour and 40 minutes to get about the same distance to the southwest. So I'm north to the center of town, then southwest. That's not exactly, it was actually more west, I think. But either way, so 2 hours. I said, let me just make sure I want to go here. It was free, a free presentation. So I checked, and the person giving the presentation, a local person, but I have never met or interacted with her. She has a business and leadership background, academic, and has become an artificial intelligence expert on the internet. I don't know where she developed her expertise. Presumably I don't want to be mean. I don't know her, but I'm always a little wary when somebody decides to give a presentation on here's how you use AI in scientific research, even though I don't do scientific research in any way. So I have a feeling it was going to be a secondhand story. Like, here's how other people are doing this. And I would probably have been much more fascinated, if it was an actual research person talking about their first person accounts of doing some sort of research with AI tools, assisting in some way, probably classifying data, probably looking for outliers, probably modeling, coming up with some sort of regression analysis, and who knows? I'm guessing I would have heard, here's what other people are doing. And because of that, I think B, the audience would have been more tire kickers, as a phrase I like to use. People who are just curious, or, oh yeah, I'll come and check it out, or, hey, I know this person, I'm going to go and be in the audience and be supportive and all that. So, okay, fine. So I said, do I want to be in a bus for 2 hours each way to see a presentation that's not by a scientific researcher talking about use of these tools for that, generative AI tools? So it was fairly easy to bail. I mean, I would have had to leave at about 3, what time was it? I think it was 3 p.m. to get there by 5:30. So yeah, didn't make it. And I felt better for that. I think there's a comedian on it. I don't remember which comedian it was, has a bit where like, when you cancel plans, that's the best feeling in the world. So yeah. But tonight I was supposed to go to the Ignite thing. Now it was downtown, relatively easy to get to. I will say right now, it was that 20-minute ride to downtown on the CX bus. And then it was going to be about 15 minutes of walking. And that's totally fine. I have made that walk to and from the downtown bus terminal. It's called the Bonneville Transit Center. I've done that many times. Easy, piece of cake. I know it's 15 minutes. Piece of cake. Done. So the event was going to start at 6:30. I was going to catch the 5 o'clock bus. It was actually the 5:15 or something. 5:18. So I left to head to the transit center near me at about 5 o'clock. I go down there. I'm waiting. Oh, the bus. Okay. It was disappeared off the real-time tracker in the worst piece of software ever written, transit app. So, what? The next bus is in 34 minutes? No. Oh, okay. There it is. 7 minutes. 7 minutes away. Well, it's already running late. That's a bummer, but okay. 7 minutes. That's not too bad. And then this is always a bad sign. The real-time map that shows where the bus is, the bus starts going off the track. It's heading its own way. I'm like, oh, okay. I know what's going to happen now. So the bus goes by, it goes past, so it follows the basic route. It goes past where it was going to go, not in service. Okay. Now the event is at 6:30. It is now 5:25, something like that. That's pretty close. Okay. So the next bus is going to be here in 30 minutes, about. So 6 o'clock. That seems very generous. I don't believe that. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm here. I'll wait. So it's supposed to be here shortly. Guess what? At 5:55, it still says it's going to be 20 minutes. So now it actually arrives 6:28. So previously, if the 5:18 or whatever it was, if that bus was late, okay, maybe it's 5:30. I'm going to get downtown 10 minutes before 6, give or take. I'll walk for 15 minutes. I will get to the venue. It'll be maybe 10 minutes after 6, say. Some slack in there. I'm still early. I'm fine. No biggie. So now the next bus, 6:30, 6:28. It's sitting there. It's loading up a ton of passengers because everybody's been waiting for her since the last bus, a little over an hour ago. And you would not believe how often this happens here in Vegas. It's comical. So I'm like, okay, well, let me do some quick math here. I'm an engineer. I can do this. So it's going to take 20 minutes. Event starts in 2 minutes. Now I don't have all this lead time. I'm going to get downtown 10 minutes to 7, if I'm lucky. Then I'm going to walk for 15 minutes, say 20. So it's going to be 10 minutes after 7. So suddenly, relying on the bus here in Vegas is a painful experience. And suddenly, once again, I have been bitten by my failure to plan ahead. Usually I will presume failure such as these, and I will take the bus prior. Probably should have done that. Dopey me, putting confidence where it does not belong. So the reason I'm saying this is that I always find it interesting that people so undervalue public transit. There are people who do value it. I know several of them. Just the impact on traffic, if there were fewer single cars and more high-density vehicles, just like high-density housing. So if there were more buses on the road, fewer cars, fewer accidents, more efficient travel, the whole nine. But it's amazing. And here's the funny part. The American Public Transit Association, I believe it's called. Yeah, there is one of those. Let me check that since we got a computer right here. So their new, I think it was about 3 months ago. I think it was this year. Their new chairperson happens to be the president of the Regional Transit Commission. I'm sorry, the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. Yeah, the American Public Transportation Association. So she's the president now, or the chairperson, whichever it was. Chairperson of the board, I guess. And they have celebrated. In fact, they had a big meeting here in Vegas of their various public transportation fans, members of their association. They had a big event here in Vegas, and they celebrated public transportation in Vegas. And I don't remember where I was able to post a comment of some sort, but I said, "Did you guys take the bus when you were here?" Nobody answered, but presumably they did not. Now, the interesting thing, though, to me, and the reason I bring this up mostly, fun fact, you may not know this, I'm the managing director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation. It's a public charity, 501c3. Our very first community elevation project, now called an initiative, is open transit. Why? Because the public transportation software tools here are awful. So I just described how a bus didn't show up, or it did show up. It did show up late. There's been similar scenarios where the bus just doesn't show up at all. It'll take a different route. You can see it moving on the map, and it's heading its own way. Like, okay, don't know where that one's going. Probably back to the yard or something. Got to fix a bum, whatever. But there's no information given to the bus rider. And then there's no feedback captured by the transit company or by the app publisher. Transit app is from Montreal, Canada. Now it's all starting to make sense. They hate us, and rightfully so. But they've been horrible for years. The transit app people in Montreal are probably fine. So the thing is, when you have a bad experience, there's really no one to tell. Oh, no, you can install and launch a different application on your mobile device called Transit Watch, and there you can file a complaint. Now, there's another story I can tell right now, or I can wait. So I think I'll just interrupt myself. Had some people visiting from out of town. We had bus passes to get around. Trust me, it's much easier than waiting for a Lyft and Uber. It's easier than renting a car. Remember, I don't have a car. So we got a couple bus passes. The people in question are totally comfortable riding public transportation. So to them, it's like, oh, cool. So we get our bus passes. Everything's going fine till the very end. We are on Paradise Road, whatever it is. We're behind the Fontainebleau. So we went and checked out the Fontainebleau. We go out the back. We head towards the convention center. There's a bus stop that goes right to the airport is it Paradise Lane? Paradise Road. Must be Paradise Road. Paradise Boulevard? I don't know. It's where the convention center is. So just on Paradise. Good enough. So we're waiting by the bus stop. There's the three of us, two other people. There's a sign on the bus stop that there's a detour that goes into effect some days later. So it's like a warning. So we're all standing, there's 5 of us at this bus stop. We watch the bus, and I'm waving at him, drives right by. I'm going to bust out that Transit Watch app. So I Transit Watch, route number, time, this is what happened. I get an email back. I get a response from Transit Watch people at the RTC SNV. That doesn't happen. I was amazed. It says, well, we're really sorry. This did happen. The driver failed to stop at the stop. We apologize. We hope you had a nice day or whatever. So admission of guilt, and then, whoopsie. So I responded and said, well, I had to pay $20 for a Lyft to get us to the airport because the 2 people were leaving. We were literally on our way to the airport, and the bus made it to the airport with plenty of time. But now we got to get a Lyft, and we got to wait. We got to get everything into the car and all that stuff. So we cut it really close. So I said, hey, you've admitted guilt. You've admitted that the driver was negligent, didn't pick us up. And I had to pay $20.17 or something. I had to pay on top of the bus passes. So I said, now I know you guys do this because you've done it with me before when I've been screwed over by your bus drivers and they drive by people waiting at bus stops. If you complain, they would say, oh, well, accept our apologies. And here's a 7-day bus pass, which is $20 retail. But in reality, it's probably $2 to them. So I said, give me a bus pass and we'll call it even. And they initially said no. So then I had to throw some words around, the power of the pen. And so they send me a courtesy 1-day bus pass, $5. So, $0 to them. Okay. So now I'm going to take them to small claims court. But in the meantime, the take home is that you have to actually be proactive. And even when they say, yeah, we screwed up, but we're not going to do anything about it. Sorry. Then we don't have to wonder why our bus service here in Vegas sucks. And by the way, if you've ever come to Las Vegas and you actually do try to take the bus, be aware it's run by imbeciles. Worse, it's run by imbeciles who don't care. And also be aware that the people driving the buses and the security people you may encounter, if in some cases, are not employees of RTC SNV. They're employees of a contract agency. So they actually don't care. Am I making that up? No, I have asked them and they say, oh, I don't know, we just work for this other company and whatever. So they make it very difficult to take care of these things. It's very frustrating. And here's the deal. Like, I was going to an event and I said, the next bus was there at 6:28. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get there till close to 7. We're basically in rush hour. So the chances of getting there in 20 minutes are shrinking away. So probably more like 25 to 30. So now it's closer to 7. It's going to take me 15 or 20 minutes to walk. Now it's going to be 7:20. The event was supposed to start at 6:30 and it's going to go till 9 o'clock. So I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be some sort of mingling, some quote unquote networking. At the beginning, the $10 to get in was really going to cover a drink and a soda because it's at a place called Sliced Pizza. And I was already having my doubts. And I said, okay, so they're having this place at a pizza restaurant and it's 21 plus, which is always a problem. You cannot say, hey, to participate in community elevating events, you have to be 21, right? And they do this here in Vegas all the time. Oh, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, we're having an event, but it's 21 and older. Now, Vegas has plenty of things that are 21 and older. If it wants to be an innovation hub and all this other silliness, at some point they should be saying, maybe smart people are under 21 sometimes. So the fact that they do that is already frustrating. And I normally would protest and I would normally make a big stink about it, which I have done before. But in this case, I was like, I really want to see if they produce this thing and if it turns out. But now I'm not going to get there till 7:30, basically 7:30. I don't know if their networking thing is going to go till 7:30 because they have 10 speakers presenting. That's 50 minutes of Ignite presentation time, right? Each presentation is 5 minutes, 10 speakers, 50 minutes. Plus figure a minute or two between each one to applaud, introductions, applause, transitioning between speakers, reconfiguring slides or whatever they got to do. So figure it's going to be 7-8 minutes per. So that's 80 minutes. And I've already, presuming I got there, I've already lost 60 minutes of the 120, 150 minutes. So now there's only 90 minutes left and 80 minutes of that. You get where I'm going with this? So I've missed, presumably, if my math is adding up correctly, I will have missed the networking at the beginning, the grabbing a slice of pizza and a beverage and hanging out, and then the presentations themselves, and then the after. I would have made it for the presentations. And the last thing I wanted to do is walk into this place and get attention, right? I wanted to be there when it started. I wanted to be kind of low key, not really looking to be introduced to anybody or strike up conversations. I'm really there just to see the production. So that completely fell through. So I didn't go because I was really just ticked off at this point. So unlike Tuesday night where I figured the value proposition just wasn't there for 4 hours of commuting on a bus in Vegas, 2 hours each way, tonight it was literally, but I do kind of want to go and it's only going to be 20 minutes on the bus and 15 minutes of walking. And I could even catch a bus back to the terminal. I could, there are ways I could have avoided the walking. Would have taken a little bit longer, But depending on, end of the night, if my knee's been hurting a little bit, so I'm like, I have an option. I got my bus pass for the day, not the free one, but I was just in such a bad mood, so I didn't go. So the take home, a very frustrating thing is there is so little value placed on something that is so high value, right? Being able to get around in a city really can make a difference. And again, there were probably, I'm going to guess, let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't think it was a dozen, but let's call it a dozen. If I had gotten on the bus, then I saw one other person that I don't think was getting on the bus that felt like maybe a dozen. So maybe it was 10 people boarding. Half those people were waiting for an hour. Some of those people probably need to get to work. So my idea, first of all, we still have the open transit initiative. Nobody's working on it. I'm the only one that really cares about it at this point. Certainly the Regional Transportation, I don't know why I say that. The Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada could give a damn, but they wouldn't about it. Oh, you want to develop something to make it easier to get around town? Yeah, good luck with that. So they don't really care, but I do. Now, the Regional Transportation Committee, whatever RTC stands for at this point, they actually have a developer portal, RTC SNV for developers. Yeah, I'm not gonna give you a link. It is where it is. If you're really curious, you can hunt it down. I have this water bottle thing that was vibrating. I don't know if you could hear that. So the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada has a developer portal. It's incomplete. It doesn't publish all information. I still don't know why they do this. They publish they publish 2 halves of the GTFS data that you need to develop like a real-time transportation application. So there's GTFS static data. What does GTFS mean? Well, it means, General Transportation. GTFS. General Transportation File Stream. General Transit Feed Specification. Okay, I was close. It used to be Google Transit Feed Specification, but Google published it to the public domain or whatever it is. So they call it an easy way to get data for transportation tools, right? So transit, public transit. Where's the bus? Where's the bus stop? What time is it? Where's the bus along the route? So they have all this nomenclature, trips and routes and stops and all that, which is good. That's all fine. But it's such a mess to get this data. But okay, the RTC publishes this data. They publish the static part, which is bus stops and bus routes, right? The route doesn't really change day to day, except for detours. So the routes and the where the bus stops are located doesn't change, except for if a stop has to be closed for some reason. But generally speaking, these don't change unless it's for a specific reason temporarily. So the static data they publish as a zip file with a bunch of spreadsheet stuff, which is nice. I guess you're only going to be downloading it every once in a while, so it's fine. But the schedule data, they call it, so static and schedule. Schedule data shows you the real-time location of each vehicle and which includes the estimated time of arrival or departure. I can't remember which one it was. By the way, those are 2 different things, so it's important to know. You really want the ETD. You want to know when the bus is about to leave the bus stop so that you know that you are there before that. Telling you when the bus gets to the bus stop does not help you. So let me check one thing here. So okay, almost. Let's see. GTFS PubSub. Okay. Why is that? Why is that like that? So, sorry, I'm totally interrupting myself here. So they have, there it is. I want to get this URL. So they do not publish the trip updates, which is the schedule data. That's the dynamic stuff. It's going to be changing every few seconds. They don't actually tell you that they publish it, but they do. Why would they not tell you that? Because they're inept. So, okay, let me go to temp here. And Let me just see if they even publish it anymore. Oh, that's good. So you end up with a 278 kilobyte file. It's a protobuf file. If you don't know what a protobuf is, it's basically binary packed formatted data. More efficient to transfer around and whatnot. So you basically, every time you download this file, you're getting every bus on the grid, where it is, what's going on. They do not seem to publish, what are they called? They're status alerts, I think it is. So there are 3 sections of data for GTFS. The static data, the schedule data. Now, you know what? Static data might be schedule data. That might be the actual name. But so say it's trip updates, the dynamic moving part, and then the status updates are supposed to be alerts like, detour, cancellation, something bad happened. So they don't seem to publish that. I've tried to look. They might. They just don't document it. So they are not willing to be helpful. I've tried. They do not care anymore. So the take home, if we're going to continue doing the open transit initiative and come up with something and test it here in Vegas, then the question is, we're not going to try to work with RTC anymore. And I've just described at least 1 or 2, I think, scenarios where the buses here really let you down, and they totally let you down. They are total jerks, if I can keep it clean. So when these people that are trying to ride the bus, when you say, hey, did the bus come here? They look at you like, of course it didn't. They're usually frustrated and whatnot. And what they never ask, hey, the bus didn't show up, or hey, the bus drove right by you and looked at you and flipped you off. Whatever the case, right? Whatever something goes wrong. Did anything bad? Did it cost you anything? Did our ineptitude lead you to, tell us? So the Transit app has a rating system. And so if you use the Transit app Go feature, you basically log into a bus, right? Okay, I'm getting on this bus. I'm going to hit Go. You're on the bus. Okay, you're going to this destination. You're going to get off in 48 stops or whatever. And then they give you an opportunity to rate it. Okay. So they give a star rating. So the CX bus has like a 4.8 or something. What does that mean? Who knows? Now, here's the funny part. You can literally tell if a bus runs on time or is late or doesn't show up because the GPS sensor on the bus isn't reporting. So they say no telemetry data available, or it is reporting and you're getting bus position data. Now, you know what time the bus is at any given location, and you know the latitude and longitude of each bus stop, and you know the scheduled time that the bus is supposed to be at that stop. Schedule, I think the schedules are ETDs, because again, it doesn't really help you for an ETA. Knowing when the bus gets to a stop is interesting. Knowing when the bus leaves the stop is critical, because you better be there before that if you intend to be on the bus. So the problem is they just go, oh yeah, bus didn't show up. They don't even say that. You just have to figure that out. So a long time ago, I said, well, why, if I know the bus didn't show up, why don't you let the people that are 10 stops before indicate that the bus didn't show up? And that way people 10 stops later can be like, oh, I guess I should look for some other way to get to work, because that's what you have to do anyway. You might as well have some lead time. So it creates a community of transportation, transit users. But the other thing is, just like I did with my airport story, really, if they were being honest, they would say, how was your bus trip? And you would say, well, it didn't show up. And I had to miss school. I was late for work, whatever, right? Something bad happened. It cost me money. I missed a flight, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, we made it to the airport fine, but again, it was very close. So the impact of these problems doesn't really get reported, because it really doesn't get captured. Nobody's asking this question. So in my view, the open transit app, the open transit platform that we would be developing, should be really brutally honest. Like, was this bus, did the bus stop smell like urine? I got bad news for you folks. Some of them do, most definitely. But I have some good news. I have actually witnessed at really weird times, 4 a.m, 3 a.m, whatever, somebody cruising around in a pickup truck that says RTC on it. They'll pull up to a bus stop. They steam clean it real quick. They empty the garbage. the garbage can that's usually at each bus stop. So they're trying. So I give them credit for that. But there are some bus stops that really are painful. If you need to, you can step away from them in most cases. So if you know this is the case, you should be able to report on it. So here are the two things that will happen though. One, you'll have people being able to issue their feedback. And by the way, some feedback can be good, and they make that hard too. If you have a bus driver that's looking out for the passengers, who's shouting outside, hey ma'am, your bus stop's coming up. You told me you were going to, there are people that do that. There are people that will pay extra care for somebody in a wheelchair or somebody who needs boarding assistance or egress assistance. They'll, again, shout out bus stops. They'll answer questions. They have a good time. They make funny announcements. They're clearly making the most of what could be a very tedious job. And that's cool, right? That can really make a difference. So how do you give them some sort of kudos or recognition? Wow, I've tried doing that. They basically say, okay, let me go get the hoops. You're going to have to jump through a bunch of them. And I'm like, all I want to do is say it was this bus number, this time. The guy's name was whatever. And they're like, well, we have to make sure whatever. You're like, really? Should I have asked for his ID and taken a picture? So they make that difficult. But if I'm going to be reporting a problem, I should be able to say, hey, this costs me money. This costs me a plane ticket. This costs me getting to school on time. This costs me getting to somebody's wedding, whatever it is, right? You should be able to provide that information. Like, hey, you know what? You guys are flip about the bus. You guys don't really care. And it has actual impact on actual people who depend on these services. So if you're going to pretend to be good at this, if you're going to pretend to be an award-winning transportation company, and if your CEO is going to be the chairperson or whatever of the American Public Transportation Association, and you're going to celebrate, hey, wow, this Vegas is amazing. Be honest. That's all I can say. And this applies to everything, really, when you think about it. Look at the news. Look at how things are working and then maybe how things are not working. There's so much BS going on. And this is a Mark Maron joke, essentially, where he's like, all of this ends up in the Middle East. So all this frustration and whatnot, it just has to begin with people not being completely and totally apathetic. So that's my observation for today. But I wish I would have been able to go to Ignite just to see if it worked, if it turned out with some good presentations. I actually had a meetup earlier in the day, had some good conversations with someone who is a public speaker. I said, we're trying to get Talks.Vegas up and running. I think it's a better way to do it than Ignite. And we can do all kinds of stuff here locally. We don't need to deal with a third party, right? Homegrown everything. So I would like to transition to that instead of having to think about Ignite Vegas. So that's ultimately the plan. I'm going to try to get a drink, but no, I'll have to go get some later. Anyway, so that's the little update for today. I did say in the previous episode that I was going to make a comment about the Ignite experience, and there it is, mostly crushed by our ever reliable Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. I would very much like to see this work. As I tell people all the time, most of my motivation is not and much to the chagrin of my creditors, most of my motivation is not about making money, right? Not about, I would like to make money. Most of my motivation is not about getting rich. Most of it comes from just wanting to see if it works, whatever it is, right? I would like to see if we can come up with a better open platform that does all the things that the transit app people in Montreal could care less about. And that's the goal. Anyway, I've already talked for a long time and I didn't write a single word of this down. The only preparation this time was I did choose the title, Failure to Ignite. But that's it. No summary, no nothing. So I am trying to practice my improv. I'm trying not to say too much, of course. I think I usually do okay there. But also just to remember a storyline. Most of the time when I write out a script, if you like, which is basically, it's an outline form, but with a lot of verbatim things that I want to say. I do that so I don't forget and so that I make the points that I want to make during the time that I'm speaking. I could condense that into more of a bulleted list, like an outline, a proper outline. I try to do 3 bullets per the rule of threes and see what happens. So yeah, this is still a work in progress that I'm kind of gearing up for Hugo Floss at some point. In the meantime, I do thank you for listening to my little rant. I kind of think this is a little bit too long for this. Probably 20 minutes is about right for a solo rant about something, or an impromptu commentary or whatever. I am looking at, this is getting to be 40 minutes. Ooh, I thought it was closer to 30. And I am looking at using something like Ardor or some other, what's called a digital audio workstation. Right now I'm using Audacity to record, if you're familiar, free software for the win. But it's very difficult to patch in other sources and whatnot. What I would like to do is have something like a soundboard, or to be able to comment on a clip of something. If you've ever heard the No Agenda podcast, which has been around forever, that was essentially what they did. They'd have, if you're familiar with Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak, the history of podcasting, and the curmudgeon that is John C. Dvorak. So the two of them would do a show twice a week, and they would comment on, they would just chit chat forever. I think it was a 2 or 3 hour show. But somewhere in the middle, or maybe the second half or something, they would basically share between them a collection of clips, and like clip 1, clip 2, clip 3. And so at any given time, and there was some commentary, like a document that went, but described what it was, and then whatever they were going to say. And throughout that section of the show, they would be, at any given time, they're like, okay, we're on clip 5, play clip 5. Okay, now play clip 6. So they're playing these clips and they're discussing them, commenting on them. So these are clips of, and I don't think they do video. So it was always an audio clip. Even if it was a video, they would just do the audio. And then they would comment on it. This is a really interesting way to do things. Still not the production overhead of video. So I think that's interesting. You could, and I did, listen to the No Agenda podcast while I was at the gym or whatever, right? So you don't need to be focused on it. They're both speaking. They're not doing presentations. They're not gesticulating or anything. So completely audio friendly. But to do that kind of stuff, you really need to be able to patch in video and do other, just basically real-time mixing. So I'm gonna move in that direction for this and see how that can work out. So I got to configure Ardor, and we'll go from there. And on that note, I will thank you again for listening, and we'll see you around. Hopefully I will get back into the groove of commenting on things at random, and we'll have multiple shows in a week. I'll probably do one more show this week, and we'll see what happens. So take it easy. Thanks for listening. Don't forget all the other audio programs that take place at usual times throughout the week, each week. And don't forget, buy me an update on Mondays. Therein ends the self-promotion. Thanks. Take care.